Any hope of leaving had been obliterated the day the walls went up. They lived trapped in a city divided according to rank and status. Everyone had their place. Captain Felix Sanquain was the man who made sure they knew it. This was the man who paid John Vanguard a living. Not that it was an arrangement Vanguard was happy with. He was mulling over this very fact as he sat on his usual stool, facing the evening crowd. Ludnor stood behind the bar, wiping a rag around a glass, as if it would make a difference. They didn't make much conversation. Vanguard was not much of a talker. There was, however, an unspoken mutual respect between them. They were both relics of the past, trying to live in the new world. Vanguard kept one hand on his drink. That was another one of the rules. Hands on your cup at all times. Management accepted no liability for theft, loss, or poisoning as a result of unattended beverages. He watched the card game unfolding on the table to his left. A small pile of counters had begun to build in the middle of the 4 players. The man closest to the door was cheating. Vanguard could tell by the flickering of his eyeball. The counters were of little interest to Vanguard. Sometimes it felt as though he was the only sober man still left on Earth. Being teetotal meant he had no use for blue. He was not averse to the paper bags now and again, so if a black came his way, it would get pocketed for later. The powder seemed to help with aches and pains, but invariably one part of him or another was always hurting. It would be easy to get carried away, and he had no intention of becoming just another addict. It seemed better to live with it, for the most part. As for the red, he certainly wasn't celibate, but sex was a game for younger men. Not that he would turn it down, given a reasonable offer. However, the longer time went on, the less it seemed to matter, and he got used to going without. Besides, there were 5 girls that worked at the ring, and they only had 6 legs between them. Vanguard valued his manhood. It was one of the few things he had left that was still his. Nobody paid him much attention. The ring was neutral ground, thanks to the most fervently upheld rule of them all. If you were going to kill a man, you let him finish his drink first. Ale spilled on the floor inside, blood spilled on the floor outside. No exceptions. Ludnor had a zero-tolerance policy on that one. A ginger cat slunk amongst the table legs, looking for scraps. It had one front tooth that stuck out, curling up from under its bottom lip like a saber. Every few minutes, someone would stamp on its tail. It would mewl angrily, before returning a moment later. Vanguard shooed it away. He had no quarrel with the animal. He just didn't want it to end up on tomorrow night's menu. It ignored the warning. Like the rest of the population, it chose to ignore its fate. Leaning down, he gave it a... In another life, he would have chosen to have a few of them for the company. In another life, he would have made a lot of different choices. Vanguard was a hard man to describe. People didn't like to look at his face long enough to notice any real detail. If they had looked, they would have noticed the telltale signs of a long career in service. They would have seen the scars and the tattoos, the patch on the side of his jaw where the skin had been burnt away. He reached up and ran one finger over the scars, feeling the coarse hairs that half-masked the puckered skin. The scars didn't make him any less attractive. Time had done a good enough job of that. At a guess, you might have thought that he was older than 50. Nobody was sure of his actual age, Vanguard included.